What up, everybody? So we are going to take and show you guys the subs. This is not my stuff, so I don't even know why it's there in the first place. They're just using it as a drop spot, I guess, which more than likely I'll end up putting it back anyways. So this is the subwoofers that I got. So I will take one of these out of the box just so that I can show you guys. These are the ones off of Alibaba. And at first when I looked at them, I liked the basket and I thought that they looked like the B2 Audios in a way, just mainly because of the white basket and the red spider. They kind of do a little bit too, to me still look like that. But when I did more research into it and somebody else had pointed it out, these actually are like a mirror copy of the Scar VXF subwoofers. I think I got the model number correct on that. And so those are black basket with a blue spider, but everything else is pretty much identical. Same push button terminals, same motor design, everything. Those are a $200 sub, almost $300 sub. I think they're like $299, $293. You know, that's not crazy. These were $162.62 after the total shipping, tariffs, taxes, and a credit card transaction fee of $48. The taxes was like $150, I think. I'd have to look it up. Tariffs were $300 to have this shipped here. So unless you guys like want to open your wallets to be able to pay for subwoofers and have them shipped, they're not going to be branded, but they are going to be a little bit on the cheaper side. But they're going to be made identical to a name brand subwoofer. Like I said, these are a mirror copy of the Scars. So I can actually get the drop-ins for the Scars. There's a company that makes them. Last time I checked, they were out of stock, but maybe they can remake them, or maybe they've remade the drop-ins again. But supposedly there's a drop-in for the Scar VXF subwoofer that these are the copy of. So if I do blow them, I can just get the drop-ins and I can recone them, because since these are a mirror copy or just spit an image of them, I can literally do that. The only one thing I didn't like is that down here on the bottom of the spider, I'm going to try to get this angled a little bit so I'm sure you can see, or hopefully you can see, right here at the bottom where the spider actually meets to the voice coil former, there is nothing there. There is no triple joint. There is no CA glue or a black epoxy glue. Nothing. They did it on they put it on the top, and they put the black epoxy to where the cone and spider and former meet, but nothing underneath. So I'm going to have to go and get some black epoxy and activator, and I'm going to have to go around to every one of these subwoofers and glue them. Let's see if I can get you guys a good angle on it. There you go. Now you can see what I'm talking about. There's nothing there whatsoever. So I'm going to have to go around to every single one of them, and I'm going to have to glue that. Anyways, this is the subwoofer. This is kind of just me explaining it in a nutshell. I didn't really get a chance to kind of go over things with you guys with it once I got them in. And then again, I don't think it was really stiff rubber. Yeah, so here's a problem too. These there's the holes that are in here, and I'm not sure. I have to go in through the bottom real quick. So there's supposed to be a hole right there. It's supposed to be able to come up, right? There is no hole lined up for the surround. So if I go through there, I'm either tearing a new hole into the surround because it goes over too far into the basket channel, or it's laid over the top, covering the hole. So I'm gonna have to punch holes directly through there. Is that a problem? No, not necessarily. But then if that's the quality of it, it kind of puts it up in the air like, is this really going to be a good subwoofer? Is it not going to be a good subwoofer? I guess we'll find out. I am going to put more time and energy into the truck. I did the alternator yesterday, and I'll show you guys that here in a little bit. But I did put the alternator in. I didn't record any of that. I kind of came out here after work yesterday and was hanging out with some friends and just sitting around. I decided to do that because I wanted to make sure that I started to get a jump start on things, because I got one door foamed. I need to foam the other door. And then I have to remember which way these close up. Okay, so that's closed up. Cool. Now what I mean by I'm getting close to being done with it is I need to finish foaming the door on the driver's side, and then I need to build the door panel for the passenger side, and I can actually start to put the rings on, load everything, hook everything up. Back end is pretty much ready to go. I just need to build the walls off on it. So it's not like it's a lot of stuff, it's just little stuff. As long as I have some friends that kind of help me out with it for building the box, we can get that box slapped together in no time and just slide that box into the back. I won't slide it because I have rubber, so we'd actually have to pick it up. Then I can load once I get the mat situated to where I want it to be, and we pick up the box and set it in there, then I can load the subwoofers and we can go and put the top on. Probably just a single wall box. The only thing that'll probably be double walled would be like that, each one of the subwoofers actual like loading wall or support wall. That'll be it. Otherwise, everything else would probably be just single walled 3/4. Is it going to cause box rise by having it as a single? Yes. Is it going to affect me any? No. Because that amplifier is way more than enough for those 8. In fact, it's probably overkill. And obviously that's why we do shit the way we do it. We go extreme, or we don't do it at all, right? So we go above and beyond. We got basically a 20,000 watt amp, probably pulling 16K out of there. It's pulling 16K at 12. I'll probably be running like 14.8. So 14.8, 14.6, somewhere in there. And that'll probably put me at like 18K. I would just look at what the sub that it mimics does. So if Scar Audio says that this sub is a 1700 RMS sub, then that's what I would go with, because I'm sure that Scar gets them made in-house in China, in a build house in China. They ship them to them, they put them through the test and put them through the workout, and then they actually say, well, this is where it's really at. You guys can have your overinflated numbers, but this is what we really have it sitting at for what it can do. And then they rate their stuff according to their trial and error with it. Say they're 2,000 watts RMS. Well, then that's fine, But again, then that amp is still overkill. We don't really need to have all that, but we have it. So if we want the power, it's there. Or if we ever decide to change up the subwoofers and just order another 8 12s of something else that's a little more high powered, we have the availability to do that. I don't have to change the amp every time. That's why I usually buy bigger amps in the first place, is so I don't have to, change up the amp, and I don't have to, I only have to change one thing, not 2 or 3 or 4 different things. One thing, pull up into the lanes and just burp it real quick, and then just, that's it. That's my run. Then it places me wherever it places me. I'm already going to be in a different class. I think I'm going to, with this, I'll be in Ninja. It's either that or Assassin, but I think I'm going to be a Ninja. So it'll be, I'd have to double check with that for Base Wars, but I don't know where it puts me into with being in Midwest SPL. I haven't looked up any of their rules in a very long time. This year we're having Midwest SPL for the August 15th show at the Holiday Inn. So August 15th, holiday in parking lot, Fargo, North Dakota. You can show up if you want to. If you got time on your hands and you want to drive, or you live close by, please, by all means, you know, like you live in Iowa or something and you're able to make the drive and drive up, by all means, show up, hang out. You know, if you want to shake hands, meet, and BS, we can sure do that. If the truck's out there at that time, I'll gladly show you it and give you a demo, a walk around, whatever. We'll see how it goes. I'm really trying to push to get this thing going by there and by that time. July, I believe, Smoke and Shine. I think it's July, June or July. I'd have to look it up. That's in Grand Forks at the Alaris Center. So do your research, look it up, check out event pages on Facebook. I'm sure it's up on there. There's a few other ones that are going to be around too. I think there's one here coming up in September, late July, early September. That's going to be in, or August or somewhere in there. That's going to be in Bismarck too. So there's going to be a few of them that are going to be around. I know there's one in August 14th which is a Friday. So it's kind of weird that it's on a Friday for the 14th one. But there's one in Breckenridge, Minnesota, over kind of by Wahpeton, August 14th. That's put on by Base Wars as well. So again, just do your research, look around, check stuff out. And if you guys have time, try to come out, try to meet people. It's a good way to socialize and get to know your neighbors, because, you know, not all neighbors are boring and just sit inside their house. Some of us, we like to get loud, and, you know, I don't like to bump around my neighborhood or around where I live because I don't want to piss my neighbors off. But also that just draws trouble onto yourself too. So if I'm going to drive around and bump, that's fine. But I shut it off before I get into my neighborhood, just to try to be more peaceful. But yeah, it's a good way to get out and meet people anyways. Come out to the shows. There is the new alternator. You can see the nice shiny case. It is a 200 amp alternator. I believe it's from US Alts or something like that. It's made in the USA anyways. Got it off eBay. Can't really look it up to tell you guys what the company is that I got it from. There was a little issue up on top here for this. This is the power management system, the PCM. I had to widen this out for this one here because it would slide onto the other one no problem, but it wouldn't slide out over here because it was just like it was slightly spaced out a little too far. The PCM sees it, throttles it down to 12, or I'll probably throttle it down to 14.7, 14.8. It could be a little lower, but usually when it starts off on idle, it'd be like 14.8. And then as the engine warms up or the alternator gets hot, it kind of goes down to about 14.6 on some of them. Chevys and stuff, the alternator has an internal regulator to them. They're usually like 15.5, 15 volts, somewhere in there. But this right here, if I ran this directly off of here, and for some reason the output on here directly for the post output would be, 20 volts or something like that, allowing the PCM to throttle it down, this 20 volts going directly back to the JY would blow that JY apart. So I don't want to do that. Once I realized this whole setup with the PCM, I took it off of here, took the 2-aught, I took it off of there, put it up here to a fuse, but it goes over from here off the stock setup to the battery, which charges just like a normal stock battery. That's the lithium battery that I have over there. I'll show you. That is the Banshee battery. Got this off of eBay as well. So Banshee makes lithium iron batteries, lithium iron phosphate batteries. These are starter batteries. So there's a button in the middle here that says use for emergency start only. And then it says use only when battery is depleted. Press button for emergency start. Start engine within 1 minute of pressing the button. So if this, for some reason, you left your headlights on, which this will kill itself anyway, because it has this built-in power battery management system to it too. So for some reason, if this goes dead or your vehicle won't start because you think this is dead, you can press this button and internally, it does something, don't know what, allowing more power to come out of this to start the engine. Once the engine is started, it automatically resets the emergency button, charges the battery like normal. So because you can't jump start lithium. There's absolutely no way. And not people aren't going to be carrying a lithium charger with them and a power generator or something like that to plug in like a Anchor Solex or something, and they're going to plug it in and then hook it up and leave it sit there on the side of the road while they sit inside their vehicle. That's more than likely not going to happen. So that's why that emergency button is built into it. Back to the headlight thing. If you left your headlights on for some reason, you walked away from your truck and you forgot about it, or if you left something else on, like you have your amp and stuff onto a switch system like I do, and I left it on and I forgot about it and I walked away, this thing sees significant draw off of it because it's obviously going to be drawing from that back battery first. Then this will be trying to cover that and refill that battery up. Once this gets down so far, it shuts itself off. It will not allow power to be drawn from it anymore. It just shuts itself off to conserve it, to basically save the battery from killing itself and not ever being able to be recharged again. You can start the battery just fine because once it shuts itself off, you can go in there and you can still start the vehicle up. It will automatically take itself out of that reset mode and just start like normal and start charging, accepting power again once the alternator starts to feed power back into it. So part of that PCM, or not PCM, the battery management system, BCM, battery, BCS, BMS, BMS. There you go. Yeah, we'll get the initials and the numbers and all the letters and the alphabet correct here eventually with everything. So the BMS, battery management system, that's in this thing is pretty smart. We had to modify the tray. There was an earlier video where we did that. We had to modify the tray and drop it down about 1 inch to be able to fit this in there. It said that this battery would have fit in there, but with the way this is designed with that upper top part or portion of it that carries that battery management system, it sat too high and the post would have easily hit the hood, or it went to closed, or it could have caused issues. So we had to drop this down. It was a simple little modification. It's not welded the greatest, but it's welded and it's in there and it's probably going to hold. So will it hold for the life of the vehicle? Who knows? Will it hold for the life that I own the vehicle? Probably, because I don't like owning vehicles for very long. I've owned that Dodge van the longest out of every vehicle I've ever owned, and it's been going on 4 years, and actually 5 years. And the only reason why I have owned that so long is because it was a project vehicle. If it wouldn't have been a project stereo vehicle, I would have got rid of it. We aren't that far out from actually having this thing running and playing, as long as I take the time to put into it. So with your guys' support, we can get it done. Guaranteed, okay? So if you haven't already, smash the like button and subscribe, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.